All right, let me just say it. X-Men 97 is phenomenal. Phenomenal. First two episodes dropped this morning, and it is far better than we as a collective fandom deserve because of all that trash talk. Everyone putting this thing down, trying to say it's going to be this woke crap, blah, 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 wokey, wokey, whatever, dude. This, so far, in my opinion, is a much needed and much appreciated upgrade. That's right, upgrade from the original series. The animation's upgraded, updated. The writing is phenomenal. And it flows much more like a series that was made for an older audience. Like the one we watched when we were kids was made for kids but could be enjoyed by older. This feels like it's made for older kids, maybe teenagers-esque, and adults, but can still be enjoyed by kids as well. It's still good for kids. Minus the fact that Wolverine said pissed in the second episode. I don't even think that's a big deal nowadays, is it? Like, it never would have flown on Fox back in the day, back in the 90s when the show was originally on, but hey, what are you gonna do? It's a new world. This series is a breath of fresh air, though. So damn good. Like I said, it flows it just flows so much better than the original. Like, the whole episode flows like, it doesn't feel like they're just doing a scene, jumping to another scene, jumping to another scene. It flows. The story feels like they're telling a story with each episode and episodically, like throughout the series, right? As a serialized story, which that's what the original series was known for. That was one of the first series that ever did that, right? Where you had an entire season carry along a general storyline while you had these smaller storylines going on. Much like a comic book does, right? A comic book series has 2 or 3 issue arcs, and then you have the overall story, for the whole year or the whole 5 years, or, in Claremont's era, the whole decade and a half flowed into one long storyline as well. Everything's great. I love that all the voice actors are back. I will say, though, that most of them don't quite sound like themselves. I mean, they are all 30 years older than they were when they did the series originally. So it's completely understandable. I appreciate the fact that they're just here doing it. Like, it's so cool to have them back. I think one of the roughest is probably Cal Dada's Wolverine. You can hear the 30 years of age in his voice. But it's still Wolverine. It's still gravelly. It's still rough, tough Wolverine, right? It's still the character. And for the newer voice actors that they got to replace some of the old ones that maybe weren't living anymore or weren't a part of this, everyone did phenomenal. I'm just going to go down, I'm just going to list some stuff, and there is going to be spoilers here, so if you haven't watched it yet, please go watch the first 2 episodes and then come back so we can discuss it. But Cyclops is such a deeper character than he ever was in that original series. Something I always hoped to see, because in the comics, he is a deeper character. He does have a lot more depth. There's a lot more to this guy than just being this Giga Chad, right? Like, there's a lot more to this guy than just being a guy with a stick up his ass who's Mr. Goody Two Shoes, always do things right. That's not the character. That's not the character. Yes, he does have to be the leader of the X-Men. Yes, he is a little more stick in the mud type character, but not to the extent that they portrayed him in the original series, and definitely not as wooden and terrible as they treated him in the X-Men Fox films, live action films. I'm glad to see some depth with Cyclops. I love the upgrades that they did to a lot of the characters, right? Not in terms of animation necessarily, but updated outfits, Morph with his white face, which everyone was bitching about Morph. Everyone was complaining, oh, he's gonna be, he doesn't have a gender. Stop. Of course he doesn't have a gender. It's Morph. He can be anything he wants. Anyone he wants. Anyway, much like Mystique. Which, by the way, in the comics, even a long time ago, is Nightcrawler's father. Father, not mother. Father. So, get that straight. If you think it's like new woke bullshit, you're wrong, okay? Clearly established in comics a long time ago. Anyway, none of that stuff bothered me when it came out. None of it. Rogue having a smaller ass. Who cares? Dude, I get it. You were a kid, you had a crush on Rogue. But, you know, even thinking back now, what, do you want kids to be turned on by a cartoon? Stop. Stop it. All the characters are fantastic. I love Storm. Seems like a deeper character too, and a better character, and way more powerful. The action. Hold on. Before I get into that, Cyclops does this thing that feels very comic book that I'd never seen him do in the show when they're falling out of the airplane, and he uses. I'm like, everyone else had to have someone catch them. Anyone that couldn't fly, right, had to have someone catch them and fly them to the ground. Cyclops, he's just falling. I'm like, what's Cyclops going to do? Because I'd never seen him do it in the series, right? He uses his optic blasts to shoot down at the ground and slowly control his descent so that he lands safely on the ground. That was awesome. I like seeing these powers used in different ways rather than just blast this thing, cut this thing, slash this thing, you know, move this object with your mind. I love the creative stuff they're doing with their powers in the series already. Magneto is a crazy badass. Like, his powers look so damn cool in this series. Just the way it's so fluid, the way he moves around, he's scary. He is scary. Even though he's a good guy right now, maybe, he seems formidable, right? Which is how he is in a lot of the comics once you get past the first, like, 100 issues, and how he was kind of portrayed in the films, right? But in the animated series originally, it's hard to be afraid of this guy. It's like corny. I don't know. Things look janky, but the way they portrayed his powers in this new updated X-Men 97, ooh, that dude, it's scary. It's scary. I love his new look as well. I love Eric with the long hair out, the helmet off. I would like to see him put that helmet back on in one of these episodes, though, which I'm guessing will happen at some point, even though he doesn't, like, the reason he wore that was to keep Charles Xavier out of his head, right? So that he wouldn't know what he was up to. But there are other telepaths. There is Jean Grey. So who knows? He might put it back on at some point for some reason. Then there are tons of other telepaths and stuff throughout the X-Men universe. Anyway, what else? Storm losing her powers. Oh, dude, probably one of the most impactful, kind of cinematic, depressing things that was ever on X-Men. Just the way they laid it out with her writing the letter to the X-Men. It was kind of heart-wrenching, and it was like, man, this is some adult stuff. This is that soap opera content that we loved from X-Men comics. Like, people who love X-Men comics, that's the main reason they love it. It's not the action. It's not necessarily like the villains or the heroes specifically. It's the interactions. It's the character moments, small character moments, you know, between these characters living together, dealing with their mutant abilities and their outcastness and whatnot. That's what makes it such a great comic. That's what Chris Claremont did to really transform the X-Men into something that people seriously latched onto, and it has continued ever since. That's what people love, the soap opera-esque feel of it. A lot of interpersonal stuff going on. And I love that the characters feel deeper in this series, and I'm so happy for that. I'm glad that they didn't want to pay homage so much to the original that they made it super corny, because so far, not corny at all. Like, this show is fantastic, and I couldn't be happier with it. That ending of episode 2, when another Jean Grey shows up at the door. We don't know for sure, right? What is this? Is the Jean Grey that's married to Cyclops and just had his baby, which, by the way, that was another cool part. Rogue takes the doctor's abilities as a doctor to be able to birth this baby. I loved that. I love that. She's not just taking powers from mutants. She can take your knowledge and use it as if she were you. That's fantastic. That's a great addition to her power, showing that side of her power. But that ending with the other Jean showing up at the door. Now, in the comics, if you haven't read the comics, you probably don't know, but this will be new to the show. There is a character called Madeline Pryor, and she is like a clone of Jean Grey that Scott unwittingly was in a relationship with, right? He thought it was Jean. And it turns out that Jean never actually came back as Phoenix. There's a whole thing, and I don't know how they're going to do it in this series, so hopefully I'm not spoiling anything going forward. I don't know exactly how they're going to have it play out, but it was retconned in the comics to where that was not really Jean Grey when the Phoenix came. That was not Jean Grey / Phoenix. It was just Phoenix, and Jean Grey was somewhere else, trapped. Anyway, or is this character that showed up at the door supposed to be Madeline Pryor? I don't know. But what a great set of episodes to kick this thing off. It was so good. Did I mention the action is incredible in this series? Incredible. It's like they took the original X-Men from the 90s and mixed it with modern day animation. It's like you took those X-Men and you mixed it with the What If series and some of the great action we saw in the What If series. That's what I'm getting from this, and oh my God, it was amazing. It was amazing. Like Wolverine, when they fought the Sentinels in the first episode, and Master Mold at the end, that was such an epic battle, dude. Such an epic battle. I loved it. Every bit of it. Every way that the characters uniquely use their powers, it just flowed so seamlessly. God, man, I can't say enough about it. I'm pumped for this like I haven't been for anything in a long time. Like, I'm pumped about anything MCU, anything Marvel that comes out. But this series has me so hyped. And, like, if the powers look this great in an animated series, if the relationships and the characters are as deep as they are in the series, imagine what they can do if they take this same care that they took for this series and put it into live action MCU X-Men. God, I can't wait for that. I'd love to hear what you guys think. From what I've seen, most people, even the people who were naysayers on this series, have come around full circle, done a 180 and said, I was wrong. This series is fantastic. So I'd love to hear what you think. Let me know in the comments below. Do you think it's woke bullshit? Or do you absolutely love this as much as I do? If you enjoy what I do here, which is talk entertainment and pop culture, please subscribe to the channel. If you do decide to subscribe and stick around, I will talk to you again real soon.